Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Ben Lindy. I'm a proud CPS graduate and the president of the school board. We are very excited to be sharing our three finalists with you today. As we do that, the next slide. We wanted to start by grounding in the commitment this board has to deep and meaningful community engagement at every single step of this process. And so when we started our search for our next superintendent, we spent almost a month listening to the community. If we go forward a few slides to the next one. We had 40 focus groups with 234 participants. Next slide. We had a survey with over 3,500 participants, and you can see here a little bit of the scope and diversity of that community engagement. That 81% of the respondents were parents, teachers, and students. We go to the next slide. Almost half were people of color, coming from over 100 different zip codes. Next slide. And we heard some clear themes about a next leader who needs to be committed to partnership and collaboration. Next slide. Who can foster an intentionally inclusive and diverse school system, strengthen relationships and trust, develop a clear strategy for what's next in Cincinnati Public Schools, support a thriving workforce, and lead strong operations. Good, next slide. As we present our three finalists to you today, these three people are the people that we felt best represent what we heard from the community we need in our next leader. And so we're entering this last stage of this process. And in just a moment, I'm going to invite my colleague, Eve Bolton, up to the microphone to share in alphabetical order who those three finalists are. We go to the next slide. So Eve will tell you about these three in alphabetical order by last name.
Thank you, President Lindy. On behalf of the board, Cincinnati City Schools, we present to you and announce to you our three finalists. Tiane Amat, current role, Interim Superintendent of Cincinnati Public Schools. Prior to being named Interim Superintendent, Tiane Amat served as CPS Deputy Superintendent. For 5 years, she served as principal at Hyde Park School in CPS. With more than 20 years of experience in education, Ms. Amat's journey has equipped her to support the district's vision to ensure equitable access to a world-class education, unleashing the potential of every student. Her diverse leadership experience includes the core belief that through collaboration with all stakeholders, we can serve and develop compassionate students who are academically and socially prepared to choose a career path in our ever-changing world. Our second finalist is a graduate of CPS, and his current role is superintendent at Middletown City School District. During his 20 years, Marlon Stiles has served as a middle school math teacher, 7 through 12 principal, and executive director of curriculum and instruction. In 2017, Mr. Stiles received the Center for Digital Education Top 30 Trailblazers Award. Under his leadership, Middletown City Schools earned the 2019 ISTE Distinguished District Award for ensuring equitable, accessible, and appropriate technology use for all students. He was recently recognized as the 2020 K-12 Dive Superintendent of the Year. Mr. Stiles is passionate. His efforts to close the systemic equity gaps many students in this country face. He is devoted to transforming education, creating inclusive learning experiences for all students, and collaborating with the school community. Our third and final finalist is Ironetta Wright. Current role, Deputy Superintendent of Schools in Detroit Public Schools Community District. Since 2017, Ms. Wright has served as the Deputy Superintendent of Schools for Detroit Public Schools Community District, serving 53,000 students, 7,200 employees with an operating budget of $785 million. A Florida native, she served Duval County Public Schools for over 25 years as a teacher, assistant principal, middle and high school principal, regional superintendent, and ultimately in the role of chief of schools, serving 117,000 students and 13,000 employees. Ms. Wright has been recognized as the City Year Champion of Education, United Negro College Fund Innovator in Education, a Woman of Excellence by the Michigan Chronicle, and Chiefs for Change, Future Chief. Those are our three finalists that will ultimately, one will become our next superintendent. And I invite my colleagues to please join us and tell you more about what is about to happen as we move through this process. Member Weinberg.
So what's coming next? We are inviting the community to participate in the interview process. We're gathering interview panelists to include CPS employees, CPS students, and CPS parents and members of the Cincinnati community. Do you want to be an interviewer or know someone who would be great? Nomination forms will be on the CPS website and also on social media. I'm going to call up Board Member Moffitt as well to continue on.
More of what's coming next. Everyone is welcome to participate. We're asking for both interviewer nominations and your ideas for interview questions. Links to the nomination and question submission forms will be on the CPS website. Both surveys will be open through January 31st. Finalist interview days are February 10th and 11th. Live streamed events with community and parent forums and student forums. My colleague, Board Member Weinberg, and I will talk about the last steps.
So we have some important dates. The week of January 24th, the finalists obviously are announced. Nomination forms and forms to submit questions are released, and the candidate videos are released. The week of January the 31st, interview panelists are chosen and obviously notified.
The week of February the 7th will be the final interviews. By early March, the new superintendent, Cincinnati Public Superintendent, will be announced. Thank you so much. President Lundy.
Okay, so questions that we can answer for anybody who is here. So I invite anybody else who has a thought or response that they want to share too. I don't think I necessarily have any different information than my colleagues. What we're trying to do is make this as broadly accessible as we can while also doing it in an environment with COVID. And so one of the things we wanted to do was make it so that anybody can request to be on an interview panel. Anybody can submit a question. We will be randomly selecting the community interview panels, and then we'll be making those available on live stream for anybody who would like to watch them. Applicants for the superintendent position. So I know that it was over 90. I don't know that I have an exact number. Do any of my colleagues have? I'll share one answer for myself, and then I would love to hear from a colleague too, if anybody wanted to share. But what's been so compelling about this process to me is the way it centers the community. We built this job profile after we heard from our stakeholders what parents, staff, kids are looking for in their next superintendent. And so what stood out to me with these three finalists is these are the people who I think speak to those things. Whether it is an unwavering commitment to doing what's right for kids or the ability to build very strong partnerships. These are the people that I think can do what our community is asking us for. Can I invite Member Bolden or anyone?
That's the real answer, but additionally, I want to make a point that out of the dozens that expressed interest initially, the board asked our search firm to limit it to semifinalists. And so we've worked from only a list, properly so, of 11 people that most strikingly met the profile. So we've gone from the 11 ultimately to the 3. And we use the process established by the ALMA search group and the profile that the community developed.
So we'll have a final decision that we can announce by early March. Thank you. Other questions? Anything else my colleagues would like to share? We're good? Okay, well, thank you all very, very much. We're certainly here if any other folks have questions they'd like to discuss. Ms. Weinberg.
I'm just going to add that I'm very excited about the search. I'm looking forward to finding, of course, the qualified candidate to lead our school district and, of course, moving us to that world-class education. So thank you for coming today.
And just to add that I ran on a campaign of community engagement, and we're really dedicated to that. So we want to make sure that the environment that we are interviewing everyone in has an opportunity for everyone to be able to access at least a video stream of being able to look at the candidates, hear what they're about, and then weigh in and give us some information. So we're still very, very dedicated to that. And thank you so much to the ALMA group and the 2 board members that led this charge, Board Member Eve Bolton and President Lindy. Thank you so much.